All right, so with the NBA All-Star game upcoming, I'm going to give my predictions on where I think the All-Star game will be going from 2027 through 2038. It's just kind of a fun little video talking about which arenas I think will be getting the All-Star game, kind of based off of a rotation, certain arenas that haven't gotten it recently, possibly new arenas that I'm going to speculate on, but you can see the next few arenas have already been chosen. They're going to be in California the next few years, the brand new Chase Center, and then the Intuit Dome, which hasn't even opened yet. So we're going to start our predictions in 2027, and I'm going to say they're going to Milwaukee. They're going to the Pfizer Forum, one of the newest, best NBA arenas. Now, this one, admittedly, is relatively obvious. There's going to be a few of these that I'm just predicting because they're new arenas, and normally the NBA likes to show that type of stuff off. But yes, this is a brand new state-of-the-art arena. Kind of looks like a burrito on the exterior. I do really like the exterior lighting. Some people might be pissed off because of the cold in Milwaukee in February, but I do think, we've seen them go to Canada, we've seen them go to Cleveland recently. 2027, they possibly go to the Pfizer Forum and reward Milwaukee with an All-Star game. Moving on to 2028, I'm going to see the Golden One Center, so this is basically the exact same explanation as the Pfizer Forum. It is a brand new state-of-the-art arena. It's got a beautiful interior and exterior. This is located in Sacramento, and we've seen Sacramento kind of have a revitalization in terms of NBA basketball finally making the playoffs. So I do think the Golden Center predictably will be getting an All-Star game relatively soon, although because, we already have the All-Star game through 2026 known, they would have to get it in 2027 or 2028. I'm predicting 2028, but it is just speculation. Moving on to 2029, I am kind of throwing in a wild card. I'm going to go with the JMA Wireless Dome, which is actually home to Syracuse basketball. Now, this arena, I see a ton of potential with it. And when you look at what the NBA is doing, with their Saturday night festivities being at Lucas Oil Stadium with a very similar configuration to what the JMA Wireless Dome is, they're trying to get more energy into the NBA All-Star game. They did do a good thing going back to East versus West. What a sham it was when it was like Team LeBron, Team Steph. The other thing that I hope they do, just play a normal game. Why was it like, first team to 140 wins? I just think that's so stupid, but I get it. I mean, the NBA is trying to do stuff. These players are not trying at all in the game, and the product was completely watered down by like 2017, 2018. But the JMA Wireless Dome, it's in your face. They could fit up to around 36,000 people in it. And imagine having an All-Star weekend here. It would be real easy to do. Syracuse would just have to go on the road for like 2 games because All-Star weekend is really, Thursday through Sunday. It's not that big of a deal, and the configuration is just so cool. This is, mainly a college football arena, but it also hosts the Syracuse Orange basketball team, and I just think it would be a neat experience. You could certainly say, well, all these NBA teams, they get big renovations to their arenas. The NBA is not going to, go to a college to do a All-Star weekend and reward Syracuse, New York with it. But I just think it'd be cool, so I threw it in there. Also, the JMA Wireless Dome, they would need to replace all of their bleachers with actual seats, and they do plan on doing that at some point. Obviously, this would be in 2029, so you would expect them, by that point to have the renovation done. Moving on to 2030, it is the new OKC Arena, so Oklahoma City will be getting a brand new state-of-the-art arena that they're trying to finish by 2029. It's already been approved, but we don't know the renderings yet for it. It's going to be around $1 billion, and it will keep the Thunder in Oklahoma City for the next 30 years. I would say, predictably, the NBA is going to want to show off their shiny new toy. Oklahoma City, it's obviously a big enough city to host an All-Star weekend. 2031, I'm saying the new Las Vegas Arena. Now, Vegas could get an All-Star game sooner, but it just depends when it comes to NBA expansion. We all presume it's going to be Las Vegas and it's going to be Seattle. And Las Vegas, very likely, they're talking about building their own NBA campus that's going to cost $10 billion, and it's going to be fully privately funded. Right now, I'm going to say 2031 for Vegas, but it just depends on the expansion timeline. I think expansion will probably be announced in 2025 or 2026. But yes, if they get a brand new arena, I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be over $1 billion. And that is where I see the NBA going, obviously. I mean, look at the NFL going to Las Vegas already for the Super Bowl. Moving on to 2032, here's a normal one. How about the TD Garden? I do not believe the TD Garden has ever hosted an All-Star game, and it's a decent arena in Boston. I think they could potentially go there. This is just one of those situations where it's a place the All-Star game hasn't been, and I think they might give TD Garden a shot to host one. That would be around 2032. Moving on to 2033, it is Little Caesars Arena. So this is another newer NBA arena in Detroit, Michigan. You've got the nice color-changing roof, a nice interior as well. I could see Little Caesars Arena hosting an All-Star game at some point, maybe sooner than 2033, considering it is a brand new arena. It might be Pfizer Forum, Golden One Center, and Little Caesars back-to-back-to-back, but I would like to see the JMA Wireless Dome host an All-Star game. Either way, I do think Little Caesars Arena, based on how new it is, will be hosting an All-Star game relatively soon. Moving on to 2034, it is the Barclays Center. So this was a very expensive arena built in Brooklyn, New York, that has not hosted an All-Star game yet. I would advise the NBA not to do this. There's just something off about this arena. It's really dark, and it's not dark in a good way. Like, at least Crypto.com, where the Lakers play, when they dim the lights, it looks nice. Barclays Center just never has atmosphere, but it is a very expensive arena. It's never hosted an All-Star game. You know what? I think it hosted Saturday night festivities back in maybe 2018 or something. Wasn't the Sunday the actual event, the actual game at Madison Square Garden, and then the Saturday festivities were at Barclays? So maybe I'll have to change that. Yeah, I would advise the NBA not to go back there, but that would be around 2034. 2035, I'm saying Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. So, this would be an expansion team. Climate Pledge Arena just got a $1 billion renovation in preparation a few years ago for the Seattle Kraken, an NHL team, and we would expect the Seattle Supersonics by 2035, obviously, to be a thing. The NBA would have expanded, and they would very likely get an All-Star game in a new upgraded arena, Climate Pledge Arena. Moving on to 2036, I am going to predict the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida. So this could happen a lot sooner. The NBA having an All-Star game down in Miami, especially considering the nice weather. This is a nice arena that is rather unique, and I would really like to see this arena host an All-Star game, in 2028 or 2029, but just the way I'm doing these predictions, it kind of fell a little bit lower. Maybe sub this one out with the Barclays Center, get the Barclays Center off, but either way, moving on to 2037, I'm going to say the new Wizards Arena, which will be very likely located in Northern Virginia. I'll say they get it in 2037. It's a newer arena. It's expected to go up probably by 2030 or 2031. So I'll say the NBA rewards them, Northern Virginia, with a game in 2037. They're supposed to have an entire district based around their new arena. And then 2038, I'm going to say the new Jazz Arena, which possibly could go up. This is completely hypothetical. There's actually no talks of the Jazz building a new arena. But with the speculation that Utah might be receiving an NHL team, they're very likely going to build a new arena that's going to be shared by the Jazz and the NHL expansion team, and you would expect that to be up by 2038 for sure. And also Salt Lake City, they are expected to be rewarded the 2034 Winter Olympics. There's going to be a lot happening in Salt Lake City over the next decade when it comes to sports, so I could see the Jazz possibly getting an arena, but obviously these are just fun predictions. Who really knows, by 2038, these are just different candidates that I could see possibly hosting an All-Star game in the near future. And then another one, I don't know when this would be, you could say mid-2030s, but the Philadelphia 76ers are planning a new arena called 76er Place at Market East. They're not planning it until 2031. It's a very far out vision, but if it does happen, you would also have to assume maybe that one would take over the Barclays Center spot, the 76ers brand new arena that probably will be happening at some point. Wells Fargo did receive a renovation recently, but it's in a similar spot as Capital One Arena, which is the current Wizards Arena, and that is very likely not going to be an NBA arena soon with the Wizards moving to Northern Virginia. But either way, those are just some far out there predictions on potential host cities for the NBA All-Star Game. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.